Chris, we are back here for episode 9, Elevate Cleveland podcast, with an awesome last second guest. Fortunately, being able to come on to fill our spot here. Nonetheless, though, whether it was going to be a month when we had you on or you decided to come on today, very grateful to have you on here. Melissa, if you can, first and foremost, to our guests and our viewers, just introduce yourself, let them know who it is you are and why we know you so well.
I am Melissa Smith. I'm the Vice President of Liberty Home Mortgage. You know me so well because I started the company with Khash. It was 2014, and it was, not even really expected what we were doing. He needed a processor, and I had worked in a closing department where no one would ever help him with anything. He was a purchase guy in a refi world, and every time he'd need docs out on the last day for refis, everyone in the closing department would tell us, don't touch his files, don't touch them. Leave his purchases sit, those can wait. So he had a processor at the time that would come up and beg me to send docs for him. And I'd be like, okay, I'll sneak and grab that file.
Yeah.
No problem, I'll sneak and get it. So we just kind of had a set thing where they'd shoot me an email or a text and be like, hey, can you possibly grab this file? And I'd go over there and sneak and take it, and I'd send docs for him. So just to be helpful, you never know who you're gonna end up working for. So I would go help him all the time. And he was trying to replace the processor that he had at the time. He had heard I had left the closing department. I went back to processing because processing is my passion. So I went back to processing. He had got wind that they were going to do a layoff, and I was one of the people. So he was just waiting and waiting, just like, let me know the day that it happens. I'm going to go get her. So I happened to be homesick that day, and I had strep throat, and I got a call from someone saying like, oh, I heard you got let go. And I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't get let go. What do you mean? And she was like, oh, you should probably call Ian, who I worked for Ian at the time.
This Ian?
Ian,
no
our
kidding.
Ian, our ops manager. I worked for him at the time. And so I called him. I was like, Ian, what's going on? And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I was like, oh, my gosh, you're kidding. I had just moved out on my own, got freshly divorced, out on my own, really had nothing going for myself. I was living in one of my dad's houses, and I was devastated. I was sitting at home crying, and all of a sudden, I started getting text messages from underwriters saying, call Khash, call Khash, call Khash. And I was like, what? Why would I call Khash? Like, what's that going to do for me? So I text him. Someone said he's looking for a processor. So I text him, and I was like, tell me it's true. Tell me you're looking for a processor. So if you guys know me at all, I don't cry. I'm not a crier.
Not at all.
I was hysterical. Like, I just lost my job. I can't lose my job right now. Hysterically crying. Just an absolute wreck.
On top of being homesick, too.
On top of strep throat. Yeah. So I'm hysterically crying. I'm, like, beside myself. What am I going to do? So I call him, and he's like, yeah, like, can you come in right now? I still have the messages from him.
You just saved them?
He's like, yeah, call me. And he's like, can you come in right now? And I was like, I mean, it's 3:00, and how about tomorrow?
Yeah.
Tomorrow, okay. I'll absolutely come if you want me to today, but will tomorrow work? So he was like, yeah, that's fine. So I went to work for him. And I had no idea that he was starting Liberty Home Mortgage. No clue. I just thought I was going there to process for him. And after a couple weeks of working there, we started to jive together. Like, we had to learn how to work together. And after a couple weeks, he was like, hey, I just wanted to tell you, like, I'm starting this company. If you don't want to stay, you don't have to stay. I completely understand. No hard feelings. Like, I understand it's a lot to take on, and it's a lot of uncertainty. Do whatever you want. It's completely up to you. And I was like, I'm staying. He's the most honest person I've ever worked for in my life. I was like, I'm absolutely staying. So I was like, let's do this. So we worked on closing out our pipeline with the current company we were with. And at the same time, I was trying to figure out how to close loans with Liberty. And my God, what a trip. Like, neither of us really knew what we were doing. He knew how to originate, and I knew how to process. I knew some underwriting guidelines. I knew how to do closing packages, but all the stuff in between, we really just had no clue. So the whole time we were just stumbling along trying to figure out, like, how do you fund a loan? We figured out how to get warehouse lines, and it's so.
So you learned this all on the fly.
Yeah, and it seems so stupid, but you don't think about it that you don't even know how to fund a loan. It's so simple, but no clue. We had a warehouse line full of money that we didn't know how to get to it. Like, how do we send it out? How much do we send out? How do we sell the loans? Like, there was just so much. So, we started I figured out all of that. And then we started bringing on the talent to try to jump in and help me because I was doing all of it. He was doing all the originating, trying to recruit, bring in the new business, and I was trying to figure out. I did the processing, I did the underwriting, closing, funding, I did all of it. So by myself, and I couldn't keep up. I could not keep up.
And this is still 2014?
Yeah, 2014 and into the beginning of 2015.
Okay, and then so what was the inception day of Liberty Home Mortgage? Do you remember the date?
I want to say...
The birthday?
I mean, we incorporated in 2013, but I'm thinking like around November of 14 is when we started originating loans.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I can remember borrowers' last names from that period of time. Ask me one from last month, I couldn't tell you. But I remember the specific loans because every single loan was just gold. It meant everything. It was everything to us. I mean, every single one counted. So,
was your background in mortgage processing? So you were at the last company for a while, but before that, were you in the mortgage world?
No. So I actually I was a stay-at-home mom for quite a few years. My original path was I was a firefighter, EMT. I was going to become a paramedic, and then I got pregnant. Story of all of our older lives. You guys are much smarter than we are. So got pregnant, completely changed my path. I was a stay-at-home mom for a while. And then I got an opportunity to work in Army recruiting. So I was a contractor working as a commander's assistant right in downtown Medina on the square, working for the Army, which was awesome. So it was really cool because I had a new leader every 2 years, and there were leaders under that leader. So I got to watch all of these different leaders, and I was always just kind of quiet and to myself, but I would watch how they functioned and what they did and what worked and what didn't work. And I just held on to that. And I noticed the things that I could see the whole group of people that they were running, and I could see them be super successful or fall to pieces. And it depended on those leaders and how they did things. So I paid a lot of attention to that, and I loved it. Absolutely loved working there. But then the government furlough happened, and I got cut back to part-time. So, I'm just not a part-time person. I like to work. I don't want to sit at home. Once I started getting back into the workforce, I wanted to work. So it was funny because Ian Shirey, our operations manager, our paths have crossed just over and over again in this industry, but he happened to open a branch above where my Army recruiting office was. And I would see him outside, and I would see the main branch manager. He was the assistant branch manager. I would see them outside every day, and I'd stop and talk to them. I'm very friendly. I'd say hello. And when the government furlough happened, I happened to pass them outside, and I was like, I think I'm going to start looking for something else. I just got cut to part-time. I leave at 2 now. That's just not me. And they were like, well, we're looking for a processor. So I was like, all right. So I went up to meet with them, and they told me the income potential, and I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely in. And my goals back then were if I could make $50,000 in a year, I would be just as happy as could be. That's it. I've made it. $50,000 a year. I've made it. So they said that's possible. I was like, okay, let's do this. I'm in.
So could you explain, because a lot of people don't understand that there's a whole back end process. When you're purchasing a home, the average home buyer just thinks, oh, I'll go to the bank, I'll talk to the originator, because that's the only person you talk to. But so when someone gets into contract and the contract goes to processing, what are you doing in processing? What is that operation?
So in processing, every single thing is being verified. So your income, your assets, making sure that what you said you actually are bringing in every month is what you're bringing in, making sure that you qualify, your debt to income ratio works, that you have the ability to repay. So the processors are doing all of that legwork. If there's judgments or liens or anything goofy on title, they're the ones that are out there collecting all of that documentation to try to present that to the underwriter. So ordering your title work, appraisals, all that fun stuff, payoffs if it's a refinance. So that's what the processors are doing. And then they take all of that information and they give that to the underwriter. So then the underwriter has to go through that and make sure that it meets all of the guidelines. So not just agency guidelines. So Fannie, Freddie, Ginnie, everybody has their own agency guidelines, but so do the investors that we sell to. So I'm sure everybody's heard of an overlay. Well, these different people that we sell to, they all have their own overlays. Some of them don't have any, which is great. And we've tried to get signed up with as many of those as possible, but some of them do. So we have to make sure that when we're underwriting that loan, that not only does it meet our requirements to meet agency's requirements, but it also meets the investor's requirements. So that's a lot. I mean, if you look at the Fannie Mae selling guide, it's 800 pages.
Super regulated these days.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, and they have to know all of that. They have to know all of it. And they have to know what the investors require. So, that's why we're always trying to say, like, we need to make sure that our underwriters have time to review this file, because if they miss something, we have a loan that we can't sell anymore.
Right.
The agencies don't want it. And then we have to pay for that out of our own pocket. There's no pool of money for that. It's our operating account that comes from.
Yeah. So that's why, like, when we tell our borrowers they're fighting us on something, we're like, listen, I'm not asking this for my pleasure. We need this.
Yeah.
Now they can better understand, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So for you, like, what has been the progression in this industry as a whole for you to kind of be on the front point where, you're one of a massive number of processors, right? There's a bigger pool of you, and then all of a sudden you trickle down to the one and only vice president of a company. What has been the progression of that for you as far as what it is you've had to adapt to and learn in this industry to obviously help ensure that you're doing the best possible job in each of those positions? You
know what the hardest thing was for me, and this sounds crazy, I had the hardest time delegating because that's what it came down to. It was me doing everything, and then I had to let go and trust our closing manager to do the closing documents, and our funding manager to fund, and the post-closing manager to sell the loans. And there was so many things that I just had to, like, release that and let someone take over. And I had, Hesh and I both had a moment where we realized that we were great together, but we couldn't do it by ourselves. And there's certain people that you bring on board with you that you just know you need, like our operations manager. We could not do this without him. I fully believe that we could not do this without him. He's our systems guy. When he showed up here, I had to convince Hesh. I was like, we need him. I was like, I don't care if we pay him double what I'm getting paid. We absolutely need him. When our operations manager, Ian, when he got here, you guys would have laughed at what our operating system looked like. It didn't even function. It was literally just a system where you could put documents. There were no milestones to push the loans through. It was a disaster. And he came in and was like, okay, we got to build this out. And I'm like, yeah, we do. I don't know how, and I also don't have time. So.
What year is that? This is 2015 now?
That was 2015, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, he came on, I think it was July of 2015. So he was pretty early on, but we were already rolling. Like, we had loans coming in, and we were closing loans, and there was so much. We needed a compliance officer. Like, there's so many things that have to happen. So, but yeah, trying to learn to delegate those responsibilities that to me, it was everything. Every single thing I did every day was so important. So to hand that off to someone else and trust them that they would do it the way I would do it was terrifying to me.
Is that easier for you now to delegate?
It's so much easier now.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, it feels very natural to me now. In fact, I look for that. Like, I have to actually do this myself. This is crazy.
Yeah.
All right, I guess I will. Last week I had to write policies and procedures for our broker channel, and I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this myself. Like, this is nuts. Can we pay someone to do this?
Call Shelby.
Yeah, right. Like, someone else should be doing this. But
that's funny.
So when did you officially become the VP then?
So Chris, remind our viewers again who it is we are and what we do.
Hey guys, both Dominic and I are loan officers here at Liberty Home Mortgage. So if you or anyone you know is looking to purchase or refinance a home, please email us at the elevateclepodcast@gmail.com. Subject line, looking to purchase or refinance a home. Email's in the description.
Oh my gosh. I started out as just, office manager. And then once we kind of got established and had Ian here, we decided he's ops manager because you have to be licensed to be an operations manager. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he stepped in as operations manager, and I was kind of like, well, where does that leave me then? Like, I don't know what happens to me. And then all of a sudden, Hesh was like, you're the vice president. And I was like, are you sure?
In true like Hesh form too, I could see that
Yes.
just like amidst sending a text like, oh no, you're the VP.
Yeah.
And then he just goes back and you're like, wait, that's a big deal. Can
Yes.
we like sit down and talk about this?
Yes.
Like, can you formally
Yeah.
tell me that I'm that?
I couldn't believe it. I was
Yeah.
like, he's lost his mind. I'm not qualified at all to be the vice president. There's no
Yeah.
chance. I still have to convince myself all the time
pinch
that
yourself.
I'm qualified.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess like if you're constantly working towards that, I think that keeps you grounded of not ever getting so full of yourself that, you know, oh, I'm the vice president. Like I never ever think I'm qualified to be the vice president here. Never.
Yeah, but I think
That's
there's a
great.
lot.
You're
there's
very
a lot
humble.
to that, though.
That's-
I mean, there's a lot also to that in that story where it's like, I mean, to whether it's like an aspiring, you know, female or male entrepreneur, whatever it might be, or you just want to be like a kick-ass employee and work your way up. Look out, like for somebody in your position where you have a company of so many people who look up to you. There's still the times where even within yourself, you're like, I have to remind myself that I am qualified to be here. I think we all face that. There's a level of doubt that you all face. And I got to imagine that throughout the process, especially like newly divorced. You know, you were on that day 6. So, of course, the emotions are flying high there. And all of a sudden, this guy's asking you to jump ship. And then, like, he's going and starting something new. You have a guy whose experience comes in and says, what is even going on here with this operating system? There had to be a lot of moments of doubt in there, I can imagine.
There was so much.
Yeah.
There was so much. It was nuts. But I mean, it's such an awesome journey. Like, and then, you know, Hesh and I have been reading all of these books, these Jim Collins books of, you know, Good to Great, Built to Last. And we've been talking about it, and it's like, it's crazy to read these books and just get the validation that we're doing everything that we're reading in these books. Like we promote from within. And that's so like, I don't think, at least I don't believe that companies look within enough. I mean, there's so much talent within your organization, and you get to see what these people are made of. I mean, you can see how much they care. We've got people that work for us that they live and breathe this. For what? For a paycheck? It's because it's something within them that they just care that much.
That's right.
And if you find someone like that, why would you not promote them? Why would you not have them running another group of people? So to go out, we've tried to go out and hire executives. You guys have probably been here for it. We brought them in and after a couple weeks, we let them go because it doesn't work. They don't understand our vision. They don't understand our core values, and they just didn't fit. But to find people that have been here and promote them, huge, absolutely huge for us.
And I like in Good to Great when they, or maybe it's Built to Last when they're talking about when they did the study with all the very successful, like top 1% of companies that lasted over the, 50, 60 years. They were looking at trends and they were looking at CEOs specifically. Yeah. And if you remember this, they were like, well, what were the CEOs? What were their spending habits? What were their daily habits and everything? And you looked at a lot of the people that were failing, that went bankrupt. It's because like when they made big, bonus checks and everything, the CEOs would end up spending it on jets or vacations, and they didn't reinvest it back into the business. They ended up spending a lot of the money on their own. But then when you looked at the businesses that had that longevity, they were all like, they didn't change their lifestyle at all. In fact, what they did was they put all their money back into, like they made a big bonus, they would put it back into the business, trickle it down. And I think that's really cool. Like what our company is, it's like, I mean, you look at 2008 and below, everyone was just like, oh, you get a big check, like just spend it, just spend it on, get into debt, spend money, show off, blah, blah, blah. Like that's not what it's like here.
No.
You have so many leaders. I mean, even like Dominic, other leaders in our company, like Hesh, you make a big paycheck, you pay down debt. Pay your house down, pay your mortgage off, pay your car off, pay your credit cards down. Don't go and spend.
Invest in assets.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think that's so cool. And it just, when you read books like Good to Great and Good to Last, it is that validation like, okay, from a third party, what they're saying is true. Like, this makes sense. Like, I should be doing this, you know?
We're seeing the success from it. And like you were saying, I worked for one employer that he had loan officers working for him. And every time he saw them come in with a new car or something, he'd be so excited because he wanted them to be in as much debt as possible, because in his mind, the more in debt they were, the harder they would work.
Yeah.
And I understand that mindset.
I do get that there. Yeah, I get that. I get it.
The level of stress that you have on your plate when you have that kind of debt, you can't work as well as you would as if you know your house is paid for, you've got money in retirement, or you're planning for your future. It's just different.
It's a completely different mindset.
Absolutely.
Like, and as volatile as sales is, it's way easier going into a month where you're just like, all right, I'm coming off of a very good month. Maybe my next month isn't very good, but you know what? I didn't change anything. I'm still working very hard. It's just volatile, right? Like just like seasonality.
We experience it. We're in it right now.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's what you prepare for. You put money in the bank. You invest. You don't spend it on something you can't afford.
Right. But if you don't have that, every single deal you get is so precious that you just crush it.
Exactly.
Because it's everything to you.
I'm actually curious to know, and we've heard a lot from different mortgage professionals, or just real estate professionals, but we're coming off of an economy right now where interest rates are going up. Like, rates are going up, everything's going up, right? So we're going into a more purchase-oriented economy with purchase leads and everything. So how do you think we're positioned as a company to kind of face that adversity this year?
That's funny because we were actually talking about that this morning. So, you know, we do purchases. That's what we do. And we know them and we're good at them. These other companies do refis, and now they're trying to become purchase shops. They're not going to be good at it. They don't have the back office staff to help them get through that. So it's going to be a little more difficult for our guys this year because you've got more people in it with you trying to be good. But if you keep providing the service that we always do, you're going to outshine everybody else. It might take a month or two for everyone to see that, well, I went with them. They say they do purchases. They obviously don't. So it's going to take you guys a month or two to probably get through that, of showing everybody that you guys are the true experts in purchases. But that's the bottom line. We are the experts in purchases. Everybody else, they switch back and forth to whatever's fitting for them at the time. But they don't have what we have. They just don't.
What are a lot of like the conversations? Because, and I think one thing that's very unique too, that a lot of people will miss out on just because obviously we have the opportunity to know you guys a little bit more intimately, just being in the office all the time and this and that, like to see how close you, Hash, and Ian are, and how you guys genuinely bounce everything off of each other for the most part. And sometimes I think are like good sounding blocks for each other as well. You know, like if Hash is like, hey, I want to buy that. Like I know he's even told us stories where he's like, yeah, I call Melissa and I ask her like if it's okay for me to make this purchase, and she says yes or no. And if she says no, I don't do it. And if she says yes, I'm with it. So like, what are the conversations for you guys now in the position that we're in as a company now going on 7+ years to continue on the path we're on, to continue to grow as we have been growing?
I mean, we never have all of our eggs in one basket. So, you know, we're working on our broker channel right now. So, you know, our call center, our self-gen originators, that's kind of our base. You know, that's our stability. But we're going to get into this broker channel, and that's the next big thing. And then we're talking about getting into servicing, which is another next big thing. So I think as long as you have all of that going, you know, you're fine. Like it's constant growth. We're never going to get, as Hesh calls it, fat and happy. That's just not what we're going to do. We're constantly going to be looking for the next big thing. And that's kind of what we do. You know, we talk through everything. There's not a single thing that we do here that we don't talk through. This morning, Hesh made me laugh. I think he was messing with me, but he told me he needed the bank account at a certain amount by the end of the month. And he said, if not, he's going to cash advance credit cards to get it there. And I was like, why? Why would you do that? And he was like, I'm just joking. And I was like, stop it. But like, yeah, he just messes with me sometimes. But yeah, it's like every little thing. If we're going to buy a new Christmas tree for the foyer, we talk it through, because we all keep each other grounded. That's the great thing about all of us. Every single one of us has something different that we bring to the table. So, Hesh is like a super, high D personality, and he's just very over the top and just a go-getter. And, I'm very good at with people. I deal with people really well. And Ian's so technology driven. So
Very
like
technical.
the three of us together, and then you add some of our managers that we have that are just unbelievable. They just care like you've never seen before. I mean, I can call some of them at 10 o'clock at night and they pick up the phone on the first ring.
Absolutely.
Which is nuts. Like to find people like that is just unbelievable. Like we have such a great team. Such a great team.
And I think just because Dominic, this is our first job out of college.
We're spoiled by it.
We don't have anything to compare it to.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, I mean, what's been your experience, even though like you haven't been the vice president of other places, what's been your experience, maybe even if when it was, working as a contractor for the Army and doing some of the recruiting, and I know you brought it up to us the one day, you were like, I don't even want to say something because I still am friends with her on Facebook, but like you saw how she treated some people. So like, what has been your experience with other leaders or people that you worked for to the point where you can say now, I am genuinely so grateful and humbled for the people that I work with in the place I work at?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some horrible things. It does. It really makes you appreciate everything. And it makes you think about the way you treat people. I've had managers that, I mean, the one day I was working and I was an assistant branch manager, and the branch manager sat across the room from me, and he was on the phone, and our actual compliance officer now, Ashley, was a processor, and she sat in an office right to the left of me, and it was a big glass wall right there, and she's sitting there working with some of the other processors. He's on the phone next to me trying to get their attention, clicking his fingers. They're in another room. It's a glass wall. He picked up a golf ball and whipped it behind my head at that glass window so hard I almost hit the ground.
What?
And mind you, we were refis. In the refi world, on refi day, you work all day. It was 10:30 at night, and we were all still in there working and running on Red Bull, very little food, just trying to get these loans closed for the month. And he whips that ball at that glass window so hard, I cannot believe that it didn't break. And it was like, after that, none of them could function. Like, they were so rattled by it. I was rattled by it. It scared me to death. During meetings, he'd pick things up and throw them against the wall and break them. Like, just, he'd walk around with a golf club just trying to intimidate people. And, if you made a mistake, public humiliation was a very normal thing. Very normal thing, especially in this industry. And it was horrible. It was just horrible. Like, this manager in particular, when I started working for him, I had mentioned that I don't cry. I'm not going to cry. You're not going to make me cry. It's not something I do. He made it his mission to try to make me cry. What? Never worked. But that was his goal, was to make me cry. And I just remember, like, why? Like, and he would come in the worst moods every day. Yeah. Any little thing would happen and he'd be in a horrible mood all day. And I remember coming in and thinking, like, what right do you have to ruin everybody else's day?
Right.
Just because you had a bad day. What right do you have to do that to other people? Yeah. To the people around you? We're all just here trying to make money for you. And guess what? We didn't want to anymore. We got to a point where we didn't want to make him money. In fact, we hoped that he would fail. Yeah. Which is crazy. So you stop working it really is. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's crazy because then you go into a place like this where literally Hesh puts out how if we are hiring from outside, we want to hire people who literally walk in feeling like they have won the lottery.
Yes.
So I got to imagine that, like, over obviously the time as well, to the point where, I mean, and you could probably explain this better, but like you guys were working in an office where it was like maybe 2 or 3 of you the size of this room, and like your desks were boxes of those loans.
Try 8 of us. Try 8 of us.
Now the point where you own, like, the company owns the building outright, and we have more Christmas trees than the farm you show up to knock it down after Thanksgiving Day with your family to get your tree for the year. And there's music playing all the time, and there's literally nobody you could walk up to and not have them help you with something or have a good conversation with.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah.
I honestly think even him, like, neither of us would have ever imagined where we are now.
Was like
Ever.
his early conversations, because he's definitely a bigger picture individual. That's something about high D's is they think bigger picture. Though he is very like, it's brevity to the point. Right now I need the answer. It's bigger picture. And he's always talking about that as well. Was it conversations with him early on as well, where he was saying like, hey, I'm going to build this badass place and we're going to fill it with this and I'm going to have this kind of culture? Or was it just something that as it developed, he's like, okay, we're going to throw TVs and music, and you're like, let's go.
It's actually evolved. Really cool. So when I first started working for him, if he walked into my office and I had music playing, I had to shut it off. If I forgot to shut it off, he would tell me to shut it off. He was very anti-music. Anything. Like, he loved Christmas decorations. That's always been a thing for him. Every time I'd walk past it, before I worked for him, every time I walked past his office, I'm like, looks like a snow globe threw up in there. Like, it was crazy. But he's always been about the decorating for holidays. But the, TVs and music and all of that, that's been an evolution. Because, you have to read the room, know your crowd. Like, who are we trying to draw into our company? Like, what kind of people do we want? We want people, young people, upbeat people. Like, they want to be around music. They want to be, able to take a break and go play video games or watch TV. And so it's something that came from absolutely nothing. There was none of that to what we have today with, we're getting what is that, a pedicure chair that's coming. Like, I think it's already here.
Yeah.
I mean, a manicurist here on a regular basis. I mean, it's just evolved, and it's from conversation. It's just us talking and bouncing things off of each other and what's working, what's not working, ideas. And we don't even probably realize that we're doing it, but we have calls every single morning. Like, every single morning I am waiting for my text from Hesh. He's going to call me at this time. And he does the same thing with Ian. And we all talk every single day, and we have our regular conversation. And this is what's going on, like what else is happening, and we're bouncing ideas off of each other. And it just kind of, it's just evolved over time into what it is.
So going back to Good to Great then, because reminds me of another part in that book, is they talk about the BHAG. You remember that? The big, hairy, audacious
goals, yep.
Do you guys discuss those? Not necessarily in that terminology.
Yeah, we laugh sometimes when we talk about them. But yeah, I mean, we have those. We were talking about one today. I mean, we want to get into servicing. Servicing is a next big thing, yeah.
Can you talk about what that means for people who don't know what servicing means?
So when you make your mortgage payment, that money goes to a company that is responsible for managing that. That's servicing. So when we sell a loan, you sell the loan to Fannie, but the servicing goes somewhere else. Someone services that loan. There's a good amount of money to be made in that. And so if we could do that, and then also be refinancing those customers because we're managing their monthly payment, we know where they're at. We can refinance those customers. So that opens a whole nother book of business that we could start working on. So it's just the next big thing. And the good thing about this industry is we can look at everybody around us. Like, what's Quicken doing? What's, what are these other companies doing that we're not doing, that they're super successful, and we can try to figure it out and then rise to the occasion and try to be the best at it. And I think that's where we try to set ourselves apart, is that everybody's doing this same thing. Like, everybody, you can go anywhere and get a mortgage loan, but how good is the service? And that's what I think we hang our hats on. We have to have enough staff. We need an army of people, because the more people you have, the faster you can turn these loans. But it's how responsive are our people. Our customer reviews are so important. If we don't have good reviews, we're useless. Nobody wants to come to us. So that's what you hang your hat on.
Is that customer service, just like John DeJulius talks to. Even Jason Therian, when he first started his company ThunderTech, when we had on last week, was talking about, if anything else, we're just going to have really good customer service and then provide, like, once the project's done and we provide the project, follow up,
That's right.
So, I mean, it's just like a common thing. I feel like it's a given. You have to have good customer service.
You're not more free business. I mean, it's free marketing there as far as referrals, and stuff like that. So
yeah.
What is your, as far as just like how, I feel like 2020, like with COVID and everything, was like an anomaly year just in our industry. It was just crazy with real estate. I think real estate is truly what kind of held up like the economy in a major way that year last year was kind of an anomaly as well, where like, I mean, even Hesh said it, like, you know, you could be whatever and make money in this industry doing it. What's like the market outlook on in your perspective, and kind of going back as well to how a lot of these companies are going to jump ship into purchases, above obviously the fact that, you know, they're refi and they're trying to come into a new game that just isn't theirs. What does the market look like? How are we geared towards that to last it through the market, and also with these other companies as well?
I mean, we've been through this already. I mean, I think that this year is going to be very similar to last year. I mean, what's really changed?
Yeah.
Nothing's really changed. I mean, the refis kind of dried up a little bit. They're just continuing to dry up. People are still trying to get into our market. So I think we're going to have a very similar year, very much. I don't see it changing very much.
No, especially with new construction homes, like new home constructions, I'm sorry. Like, we don't have a huge supply of those coming in. And then you have to think of it like when you have supply chain issues, when you shut down, I mean, if you shut down the economy for a few months, that has ripple effects for months to come. You know what I mean? So it's not like, oh, now we're back up 3 months later. It's not like, okay, well, hey, everyone here is good to go. Like, they're not coming back right away. You know, it takes time to get everyone back on board, to re-up on all of your supplies, to actually build everything, you know? So that's why people always say, like, I put a post out today on LinkedIn about, you know, a borrower is freaking out because she's never going to buy a home because she thinks prices are so high. I mean, it's relative to everything. You know
and
what I mean?
are. Prices are high. I mean,
they are, for sure.
It's nuts how far above asking price people are going on homes. I mean, but, you know, if your debt ratio is in line, you can afford it. You know, I guess to each his own. But yeah, it's going to take time. Like you're saying, it's going to take time. I mean, this didn't happen overnight, so it's going to be a little bit before we start seeing homes available again.
Exactly. Before you're out of those multiple offer situations. And sometimes I do feel bad for, you know, the and it's a terrible stigma, because when a listing agent looks at multiple offers, they go cash, conventional, USD, FHA, you know, whichever one.
Right.
USDA, kick it out if it's not if you're not in the area. Right. But then VA's last.
Always, yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're talking about someone who's like, you know, served the country, you know, fought for your country and everything, and they're just looking to get into their new home, and you're gonna, you know, put it at the back burner because they have a little bit more stringent of, I mean, what is it, like a pest inspection? You know,
they're the easiest loans.
They are
the easiest loans.
Yeah, it's not that bad. And if anything, you know, I think everyone's always worried about the appraisal on FHA and VA loans, but like, there's really not that much different.
It's a health and safety
issue. If there's a health and safety issue on a conventional loan, guess what? They're calling it out no matter what. Right. So there's only a few key things that are different. So if you've got a house that's listed, that's in great condition, what are you worried about? Why do you care what the offer is?
That's my thought. I don't understand why, as a listing agent, why you wouldn't accept all offers. Because if you're trying to get the highest and best, well, if an FHA comes to me and says, "All right, I want this," my listing price is $350, and then a conventional comes for $350, but then an FHA comes at $355. You know, the house is at a $350,000 purchase price. What's really that wrong with the house? I mean, especially Northeast Ohio. I mean, I would imagine it's not going to be, you know, it's not going to be just wear and tear and stuff like that. But then why wouldn't you offer or, you know, ask for all loan types? Because then you can say, like, all right, well, FHA's $355. I want the conventional at $360. You know what I mean?
It's just an ignorance as to like what the side effects with it are. I mean, again, it's like pick your poison. Like, you have 3 pills in front of you. You know, one pill allows you any superpower you want. The other pill gives you like all the money in the world you want, but you have this side effect. So it's like, people think about that. Like, okay, yeah, maybe the loan programs to us are 100% the same as far as appraisal and going through it. Not 100%, but it's like, to them, they think, oh, well, but this one's going to be a little bit more strict, and the side effect to come with it is, you know, is going to be greater. So you might as well just go with the lower conventional because you're going to have less headache.
Because they can.
Again, it's just perceived.
Because they can.
Yeah. Well, because they're the face of the transaction.
There's not enough houses out there, so they can't just only one conventional. Sorry. But yeah, like you said, it's a little bit of an ignorance that they just don't understand. I think there's a stigma along with these government loans that they're so difficult to get and the property requirements are so hard. They're not.
It's really not.
And it's our job to educate these real estate agents on what it really is. because it's really not that difficult.
Yeah.
It's really not.
Yeah.
And especially if you're working with a company that's well versed on them. I mean, we're 70% government loans. We know these loans like the back of our hands. So we can do them with our eyes closed. It's not difficult at all.
That's right.
So, you know, a conventional loan is great, but you got a lot of self-employed borrowers, which are super difficult in this market. I mean, the way or Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac guidelines have changed on self-employed borrowers, my God, it makes it almost impossible for them. And that's most of your conventional borrowers are self-employed. So they don't understand that part of it, of what they're really getting themselves into.
Right.
Yeah.
You could have just a straight W-2 FHA borrower. They've got their 3.5% down and they're ready to roll, and it's an easy loan. There's nothing wrong with that house. Why not?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We just have to educate.
Yeah. I mean, and you talk about how you're actually supposed to qualify a self-employed borrower, especially after COVID. I mean, talk about that for a second, because I mean, getting any self-employed borrower approved, you know, prior, you know, in the last year, 2 years it was super difficult just because they had so many extra guidelines that they stacked on, you know?
Well, you know, before COVID, it was take a 2-year average of their tax returns. It's really not
Schedule
difficult.
C's.
Schedule C, the 1120s.
1065,
not that difficult. Now you have to review their profit and loss, and then you've got to compare the profit and loss to their deposits in their bank statements over the last 3 months. And if their deposits on their bank statements weren't in line with what they're showing on their profit and loss, as well as what they made in the last 2 years, you have a whole mess of issues. Now you have to explain everything and try to figure out, well, why don't they have as much money coming in? Is the business failing? Prove it. Prove that it's not. So how do you prove it? Go back a year, get a year's worth of bank statements, go to their CPA, try to get a letter, prove when all their income comes in. Like, it is just an absolute nightmare. I keep waiting. I'm like, okay, it's a new year. Are they going to change these guidelines back? Like, at what point have they decided that we're not being affected by COVID anymore?
Yeah, right.
If we're using 2020, 2021 income, that's probably worst case scenario after COVID.
Right.
So you would hope that at some point soon they're going to go back, but it doesn't sound like it.
They're going to ask you for 1 month of profit and loss.
Yeah, right? I mean, it's just nuts.
Well, I want to say it was like, what was it, from March until, was it like June of 2020? I remember when Hash was emailing us every morning, he would get on the phone with some of us and be like they have literally changed the guidelines 12 times in the past 4 months.
Yeah, it was
like they would
nuts.
come out with something new every single week. It was something new with the guidelines.
I can't even tell you guys what that period of time was like in our life.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up.
Are you
just
saying
because
from March 2020?
Well, I mean, you know, it's a good testament to
Yeah.
anything. I mean, you know, like you can parade around like the successes and like how we've grown as a company and even from the time before him and I were here, like what it was to what it is now. I mean, we talked to some of the young guys down there, like the dialers coming out of college or on home, you know, for winter break who are dialing for us for a little bit. And it's like, they see this now. I was fortunate to see it 2019, but like, what about the people like Tanko and Gallagher who saw like 16 and 17,
Right.
you know, like,
Yeah.
So going through all of that, of course you could talk and highlight the major successes of the company that brought it to where we are now. But like even just within 3 years, 24 months, you can even say like that was a hard time for the company.
Oh my gosh.
What was that like?
Literally...
Conversations and why'd we get through it?
But you didn't cry though.
I did not cry. I never cried.
Maybe close.
I never cried,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you, I lost a lot of sleep, and
Yeah.
I'm certain that Heshnian also lost a lot of sleep. But there were so many things happening after we sent everyone home that nobody even knows about.
I bet.
There were so many things. FHA insuring, like FHA, the government was shutting down. How do you get loans insured if the government won't insure loans? And we had to send binders out to FHA. We'd take everything in that loan file, we'd package it up, ship it out to FHA. There's no one there to receive it, no one there to review it, to insure it. So, you know, we didn't have investors to sell loans to. All the investors stopped buying loans. We had nowhere to sell loans. So we were like, I felt like we were drug dealers on the street out there just trying to sell our loans somewhere. Like, we were
looking to buy?
loans. Yes. Like,
What do you need,
dark
FHA?
alleys. Yeah. So, you know, Hesh was working on trying to find people that would buy our loans because our warehouse lines were maxed.
Yeah.
Every single penny in our warehouse lines were maxed. And none of you guys probably
Wow.
knew that. And we had to tap into our own funds to fund loans because we were out. We were we used up every amount that we could to fund loans to the point where like, I don't know what to do now.
Because you have to maintain a certain amount per, like the NMLS, like the licensing, right?
Net
Yeah,
worth.
but
yeah.
Net worth, yeah.
we didn't lay one person off.
We did not lay off
Yeah.
one single person. And it was like, we'd hit one obstacle. Okay, we figured that out. All right, oh, shoot. All right, we're going to be fine. And then the next obstacle. And oh my gosh, like by the time we got to the last one, I was like, there's no way. There's just no way this is going to work out. I was like, this is going to be the thing that sinks us. We got through all of that, figured out ways to get through it. And this is going to be the last thing that sinks us. And we pulled through. I mean, there was a lot of crazy stuff happening on the back end that nobody knows about, but we worked hard and we were stressed. We were very stressed. Yeah. But who could ever foresee something like that?
No.
I mean, investors just stopping purchasing loans. Who would ever expect that? Never.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I remember, dude, I mean, what were we at? We were, I think at that time, March 2020, we were at like 25 LOs for Inside. And then like within 2 months, like 5-6 of them dropped off.
Very quickly.
And then you think about this, okay, 5-6 loan officers isn't a ton, but when you ratio that out, I mean, that's, you know, a very sizable amount.
Yeah, I mean, if they're closing on average 3 to 4 a month.
Yeah.
Even still, it's, you know, again, your 24 loans, 18 to 24 loans, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, especially for, you know, like an inside.
I mean, it's a
branch like
quarter.
us,
I
what
mean,
we're
close
doing.
to 20% right there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's very scary when that,
well,
when that
and
happens.
the crazy part during COVID is that we had plenty of loans. Like we closed the most loans we've ever closed in 2020. It was almost like, please stop originating loans. Like I remember sitting at my little silly desk I set up at home and I was like, oh my gosh, they just keep originating loans. Like there's so many loans coming in and I don't know how we're going to fund them. And I was panicking.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We got through it.
That's funny.
It was weird because it was like March, people started getting laid off. So typically your pipeline sucked. And then March, April, May.
Was weird.
And then all of a sudden June
popped off.
June, and then the rest of the year going into 2021 was just like, it was just
You'd put out
nonstop.
5, 6, 7 pre-approvals in a week. You were getting back 3 contracts on Monday. It was guaranteed. You could literally, I remember I worked, because I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, what did I do in 2020? Okay, outside of obviously the kind of year it was, I was like, I got to be honest, I worked the least amount of weekends that year. I probably worked on average 42 to 45 hours compared to now and last year. And it was like pulling candy from kids. I mean, it was, you literally would put out 5, 6, 7 pre-approvals and you had 2, 3 contracts coming back that Monday, you know? So
that's nuts.
As we kind of like, how are we on time?
We're at 48.
Cool. So as we kind of push in the last segment, what I want to do is bring up what, I mean, you know, is I guess a prevalent, not issue, but just like a topic is, you know, like I would say, I don't think it's a male-dominated industry, but like your position, I would say, is more so male-dominated. What's that been like for you being, you know, the vice president of a company as a female leader? And what kind of inspiration do you think that gives also to a lot of the females that we have in our office or in the industry as well, to kind of give them like the push to know that they can get in that position as well?
Yeah, you know, I never really think about the fact that I'm a female. Strangely enough, it doesn't cross my mind other than the fact that I feel like you have to act a little bit differently as a female. I think that if a guy comes up to you and just gives it to you straight, if Jason, your sales manager, comes up and just gives it to you straight, you can handle it a little bit different than if I were to come up and give it to you straight. Yeah. And what kind of names would you be calling me when I walk away? Yeah. You know, it's just a little bit different. So
that's true.
You know, and I don't think there's a huge difference, but that part is the one thing that I think that you have to carry yourself well. You have to, you know, be very respectful of others. Not that everybody else doesn't, but I just think that things can come across differently. Like
that's a good point.
A strong, powerful woman that comes at you the wrong way, you know, it doesn't come across
doesn't
well.
resonate.
Yeah,
right.
Not that I see it as like a. I personally don't. I don't. It doesn't matter who's in any of what position, black, blue, white, orange, male, female, whatever. But it just is. It's a prevalent thing in our country as far as like it just being a topic of discussion. So I'm interested just to kind of see, obviously, for somebody like in your position, how it's, you know, you have females who look up to you. And just say like, you know, I mean, there's a lot of females even here now where they're like, I could be an underwriter and get to Steph's position or to get to Masucci's position or look at Amber.
Yeah, you can do anything you want. I mean,
100%.
really, you can do anything. It's just, do you have the right attitude? Do you treat people the right way? Are you respectful? You know, there's not a single thing that you can't do
100%.
as a female. I mean, as a male, it doesn't matter. To me, I don't see a huge divide there. I assume that some places you'll see that, but you know, if you work really hard and put everything into it, doesn't matter what your gender is. You know, you can be fierce and be a man or a woman. It doesn't matter, you know?
So my question is, and I meant to ask this a lot earlier, but how has your role as a mother affected your work as a VP? You know, like, do you have a good separation, a good boundary? Do you think that, you know, because you have 5 children, right?
I have 7.
7.
So
yes.
yeah.
Super mom.
So it's tricky.
Jesus.
No, there's a super dad at home.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. Yeah, it's tough sometimes. And, you know, there's a balance a little bit, but there's also a little sacrifice. You know, my kids understand you want those brand new Nikes and the new LeBrons and Kyries or whatever. You guys want all of these things. That means sometimes I'm not going to be at your game. Sometimes I can't be there because I want to make sure you guys have everything that you need. And for me to do that, I have to be at work. So I do sacrifice a lot. I don't get to everything. I get to a game here and there. I try to make it a point to get to, you know, 1 or 2 a month if I can. You know, when I'm home at night, I've you know, gotten to a point where I shut it down. You know, there's a certain point at night where I'm done. This is family time. I'm with my family. I'm going to have dinner with everybody. I'm spending genuine quality time with these people because they need it. Like, as much as I'm needed here, I'm needed there. So it's a balance. It's tricky. And, you know, it's the younger ones, it's easy to give them the attention because they're right there. It's the older ones that it's tougher because they're out on their own. And, you know, in my mind, you know, they've got their own lives. They're good. They're well. They're successful. They're doing great. I don't need to check in and make sure they're okay. But I do. I do. So trying to make the time for that in, you know, this life that we live where it's just nonstop.
Chaotic.
I mean, your phone never stops. It's just crazy. But, you know, people learn. Everybody learns. Like, you'll get to a point, you know, you guys are still young in this, but you have to kind of train people that after a certain time at night, you're probably not going to get me. Text me, whatever. If I can, I'll get to it. But after a certain point in the evening, it's not reasonable to expect somebody to be working when they're trying to spend time with their families.
Or is anything really even going to get done?
Right.
Yeah.
What's really going to happen?
Yeah. I mean, you know about it, and you could jump in, but like,
you text me at 9 p.m.
what's
like,
going to happen?
Right.
I'm not. There's no difference in me solving your issue tonight than what I could do at 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, what are you gonna do? You can't fund a loan at 9 at night. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you need that time. Like, you need to be able to shut it down so that you get up in the morning and you want to come to work again. Like, you have to have that. Like, you need your own time. You need some decompressed time. People call it a balance. Call it what you will. But you have to have that. Otherwise, you're going to come to work every morning miserable. Like, I just finished doing this at 10 o'clock at night. I don't want to do it again today. Like, and you're just over it. You just get
Groundhog
burnt out.
Day.
Yeah. It's too much.
What would be, not that anybody would say, oh, like, why should I work hard or not work hard? But, like, as far as where it is you are now, if you were trying to convince a class of college kids soon coming out of, about to graduate, and let's say it's a business course, and you were to say, listen, at the end of, 15 to 20 years, if you dedicate yourself to something, you put in the time, you do everything you can to learn it, you take risks, you fail, you jump in even when you're scared, here's what can happen when you get to the other side. Like, for example, like, I know you recently told me, like, your house is paid off. You're at the point financially now where it's different than when you first started and you thought 50K was a lot. Like, what other benefits are there that you would be able to tell them and convince them to say, hey, dedicate yourself to something for the next 15, 20 years, bust your balls, and this is where you could be and what can happen?
Well, I mean, it's huge. I mean, we're all here to do something. We all have an end goal, but the money is the means to get you there. So you work harder, and the more effort that you put in, the more likely you are to get there. So let's work really hard for a shorter amount of time to get to those goals, and you can actually have those goals. I mean, I never would have thought in a million years that, okay, let me see how much money I can possibly put into my retirement in the month. That was not even fathomable to me. I remember times where I had $20 left in my account, and I'm like, well, I could probably stretch that for another week, which is crazy to me. Like, I would be curled up in a ball actually crying somewhere if that were my reality. And it's working hard to get where you want to be. And that ability to decide, where do I want to spend my money? Where do I want to retire? Like, instead of have tos. Like, I'm going to have to work at Walmart passing out carts until I'm 90. I don't want to have to do that. So if you put in that time and effort and work really hard while you're young, you don't have to do that anymore.
You have the energy while you're young.
Yeah. I just want to be done someday. That's my goal. I want to be done someday.
Right.
And do what?
Nothing. No, here's literally what I'm going to do. My husband thinks it's funny. I want to have a garden. I want to retire and just have a garden, and I'm going to grow tomatoes. No, just like a normal, like this room. Is that massive? Is this room?
No, that's a good size garden.
That's like a good size garden.
Yeah.
And I want to grow tomatoes.
I mean, you're feeding the family off it.
Yeah. I'm like going to can stuff and like make jam.
Yep.
I'm going to do all of that.
Spaghetti sauce.
That'll be your retirement hobby,
Yes.
huh?
I just want to have a garden. And like, I want to go outside and pull weeds. Like, that's what I have to do every day. I don't want to have to think about it. I'm just going to go out and pull weeds and maybe play bingo. I don't know.
So simple.
Yeah.
So simple.
Yeah, I just want to be able to relax.
Yeah.
Like, at some point you want to get to a point in your life, and I laugh with my husband about this. Like, I just want to be able to go out and dig a hole. Like, that's a dream job.
Yeah.
Go over here and just dig a hole. This is how big I want it. This is how deep I want it. Go dig the hole. All right, I'll go dig that hole all day. Like, I don't want to make any
because that's all you have to do.
Yes,
you don't have to worry about anything else.
No difficult decisions. I just want to go dig a hole. So, yeah, that's my goal someday. Is
awesome.
Just
Simple. I like it. You got to butch your butt now to be able to dig that hole later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
So, any advice you'd give to just like life advice in general? Not necessarily business advice, but predominantly for somebody recent, not necessarily right out of college, but someone who's going right into the workforce. Like, what would you just say? Like, hey, is it working? Is it still to that theme of just working hard, or is it, appreciate the little things or anything?
No, I think you have to have a goal, and everyone calls it find your why. And I don't love that saying, but
sure. Yeah.
It's just cliche to me, but you have to have a reason. Like, what is it that you're working toward? You have to be working towards something. Otherwise, it just becomes monotonous and you're not going to put as much into it. You have to have a plan always. And make sure you're at the right company. You got to be at a company where it fits and it feels right and you feel appreciated and you're happy to go there every day. If you don't have that, it's just not going to end well for you.
Yeah. It's hard to show up every day and put energy, quality energy into something that you're not passionate about. Not even necessarily passionate about. I got to be honest. I don't genuinely think I'm super passionate about mortgages, but like, I like the work I do. I like working with the people I work with, and I love the place I'm at, and I see a lot of growth opportunity. So it's like a vehicle to get to eventually where it is you want to go.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't love mortgages either.
Yeah.
I don't, but this is how I'm going to get where I want to be.
I would agree with the majority of a lot of people in our company know that. I don't think anybody in mortgages genuinely loves
it's
mortgages.
Not fun.
It's really
it's not fun.
No, but it's an
Chris
awesome
is like,
industry.
I love it. You guys are wrong, but it's not fun. It's not fun.
He wakes up thinking about DTI.
Right. Yeah. That's how you know you're in it. If you if you're dreaming about the job, you're in it.
I don't know. It has its ups and downs. I don't know. I like big picture. Like I think about how important the housing market is to our economy and how important it is to have good people in this industry.
And you play a role in that.
And I play a role in that because
that's a good point.
You can see how powerful the effects are when you have bad people operating such a high part or a big part of the economy like housing. I mean, it's a multiple, $billion, trillion industry. So I think that you play a big part in helping people, intrinsically helping them get into a home, because I think that's really cool. Like, you're able to literally take a family of 5, maybe they've never been able to purchase a home before, but you were the one person that gave them the time of day to actually like get them in their house. Like I had this family, they were moving from Cleveland to I think it was either Medina or Berea, around there. And they went to like 5 different lenders. I mean, bad credit, high DTI, and really no one gave them the time of day. Mm-hmm. They literally pulled credit and they were like, no, goodbye. And I was just like, dude, I know we can make this work. I absolutely know we can make this work. I mean, it's going to suck, but I know we can do it. And it was pretty bad, but we got it done. I think we had to extend by 1 day, right? But they were so appreciative that like the mom called me after I even said like when she got her keys and was like literally crying. Because they wanted this house so bad. There was a good school district. And I was like, dude, like, that's why I like doing this job sometimes, because it's like phone calls like that. Like, I could get on the phone call and people could curse me out. Realtors could suck. Title agents could suck. But, like, I get that one phone call a month or every couple months from that mom that's just crying on the phone saying thank you. It's like, dude, that's why, like, that's awesome. Like, what else can you do, like, that can do that? Obviously, unless you're, like, in like, healthcare. Yeah. Exactly. Right. But, I think that's really cool. I agree. I mean, that definitely warms my heart.
I agree. Lovesack argued that, too, one time, because I was bringing something up to him, and he's like, trust me, your job means a lot more than you think. He's like, it genuinely does.
But it's important you have people like you in this industry, because there's a lot of shitty people out there. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people. There are a lot of bad loaners. But like anything, there's a lot of bad loan officers, a lot of bad real estate agents who only think about the monetary gain of a client. Like you can't like that. That's how 2008 happened, was because it was greed. That's like, one of the 7 sins. Like people preyed on greediness. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah.
So I think it's very important. Like that's why I like this job, because I think it's important that we have like people like myself in there.
Well, I mean, it's also, and I heard Hash say this one of the first times he would did the the Friday meetings when I first started in 2019, and it was, I'll take on a $65,000 deal just as much as I'll take on a $400,000 deal. Like it's game on. Like if you need help, it's game on. And I just took that mentality. I was like, okay, I'm gonna drive that moving forward. And I feel like that's a testament to you and I as well. And why is just as we'll put ourselves out there. I mean, there's been times where we have to stop and we have to come into your office and let's figure this out. And that's what's awesome too about this company, is the support that helps us be able to give our best to the clients, is the fact that they don't understand. Like we try to sell them on it, but they genuinely don't know the fact that literally when we get off the phone with them on their problem child loan, we're walking up to their room where it's Ian, Melissa, Masucci, Shelby, Amber, and we're all sitting there trying to get the deal done. And we do. Yeah. Like a lot of companies try to disqualify why they should have the loan. We try every reason to make it happen. So.
That's what keeps us at it, because we don't get to have those conversations with the borrowers. We don't get the thank you so much for all the help. Right. We always have to remind ourselves that there's people behind every single loan number. Yeah. And there's a whole family there, and there's somebody's dream and their future. Yeah. And that's what keeps us going. It's like helping. Like you said, we're not shutting it down. We're not finding a reason to decline these files. We're trying to find a reason to make them work. Like let's get in there. Let's email investors. Let's see what we can do to get this thing done for these people. And that's a special thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I know I feel very fortunate every single day coming into this place, working for Liberty Home Mortgage. Obviously a testament to the culture as a whole, but also to you guys as well in that office who have built one hell of a place. So,
hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Elevate Cleveland podcast. Dominic, wrap it up for us.
As Chris stated at the beginning of this podcast, we are licensed loan originators for the best mortgage company in the land. That is Liberty Home Mortgage. Guys, if you or anybody you know is looking to purchase or refinance a home, doesn't matter if you've done this 1, 10, or 100 times, call us, email us. The email is in the description below. Reach out to that email. In the subject line, put looking to purchase / refinance a home. Whatever it is your goal is, Chris and I will reach out to you within 24 hours, and we look forward to helping you with whatever it is your specific home goal is. Thank you.
Many good things moving forward as well. Chris, unless you have any wrap-up thoughts, that brings us to the conclusion of episode 9.
I just want to say thank you so much for getting this last minute and everything. Yeah. So, seriously, thank you.
Yes, no problem.
Helps
Happy
us
to
out.
help with anything.
Yeah, we did have you scheduled on for, I want to say it was
the
like
17th.
Late. Yeah. But nonetheless, hey, it's a good surprise, and it was easy access. We had you in the office. So that's all we have here. Episode 9. It is Friday, so have a great weekend to everybody by the time you're listening to this, and we will see you next week.
Ciao.